Oh, I'm sorry. I was still like in the zone. Well,
Enjoying the tunes. I
I
know.
was just enjoying the tunes. All right. Good morning and welcome to the latest episode of the Project Failure Files, the series for anyone who manages people, projects, or processes for a living. I am Sharon Weaver, CEO of Smarter Consulting.
And I am Christian Buckley, the founder of Collab Talk, and welcome to another episode of the series where Sharon and I explore management and leadership topics from the perspective of what not to do. Don't do it.
So let me start with a provocative question. If everyone on your team is working in their genius zone, who's left doing the grunt work? Today, we're going to talk about what happens when people only do things that they're good at, or more importantly, the things they enjoy, but then quietly avoid everything else.
I know it sounds healthy on the surface. In fact, Sharon and I were talking about this other day where we kind of came up with the idea for this episode. Play to your strengths. It's I always bring up one of my favorite books, First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham, which is a big piece of that is managing to people's strengths. You want to focus on your passions. But if no one owns the uncomfortable things, the tedious tasks, the unglamorous items that the responsibilities that they don't just disappear, they just add up in the mess. It's like the dirty dishes in the sink that no one wants to clean. They just become someone else's burden, or they don't get done at all.
Yep, exactly. And over time, that imbalance ends up creating bottlenecks, resentments, risk, and ultimately the work that feels small or annoying often turns out to be the work that actually keeps everything running smooth and keeps everybody stable.
There's also the leadership version of this where managers, they assign by talent and shield certain high performers from the messy stuff. So it feels efficient, but it definitely comes off looking as unfair favoritism for certain individuals.
Well, that would never happen. Yeah.
It rarely happens, I know.
Yeah. Fair work isn't always equal work, but it does at least have to feel fair. Ultimately, everybody has to do different things, but if the hard things consistently just keep landing on the same people over and over and over and over and over, it just ruins morale for the team.
Yeah, avoidance definitely has a cost. So the task that you procrastinate on today becomes tomorrow's fire drill. That uncomfortable conversation becomes a crisis. It can skew your planning. You have an unrealistic view of what it takes to complete different tasks. Like that was really hard last time. No, everybody just avoided it. So that skipped review, it becomes rework later.
Yeah. And really the best teams and the best leaders, they don't optimize and prioritize just for comfort. They really align passion with priorities. And that way you can use maybe the tasks that people don't want to do as intentional growth opportunities. So this is where opportunities, right? We have opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow. Because ultimately long-term development doesn't come just from doing what's easy. It also comes from doing what stretches you.
I love that last point. It is so true. Because you think of like building muscle. You build muscle by stretching, by tearing, by doing those things, like doing more than what it can do. That's where the muscle grows. As always, this should be a thought-provoking conversation. Please share your experiences, share the episode with, all we ask is that you send the link to 20 of your closest friends every week. That's it.
Yes.
20 different people every week.
20 unique people.
Yeah. But we definitely want to hear your stories. If there's a scenario that we've left out, if this hits home, please let us know. Leave a comment for us.
Yes. Let's get started with some definitions.
Yeah, I think this too is, again, we all want to do the things that we're strongest at, that we're best at, but then you have to look at, all of the other things that need to get done. And it's, playing to your strengths is smart, and we all do that. But the moment that strengths become an excuse to avoid responsibility, that's where performance stops being strategic and starts being selective.
There,
It's always good. I would always use with my kids the phrase, Sharon, we can do hard things, and they complain about a chore or some other things like we can do hard things. And it was meant to be like, there's like, I hate this phrase. Like, but it is true. And one of the things, it's a great sense of accomplishment. I can say it, I'm using my words. To get through a really difficult task of things, a workload that nobody wanted to go and cover and get that through. And you feel like, wow, I did this major effort. And so it's healthy for us to do that from time to time.
yeah. And there's also a big difference in helping people to find their zone of genius and focus their path on that and learn how to mature themselves into their zone of genius. That's not the same as letting people do the thing that they only want to do so that they don't ever have to do anything that they don't want to do. And ultimately what ends up happening is those tasks then just kind of get dumped on somebody who is willing to do them, right? We're not talking about not helping people, build to their strengths or find their zone of genius or go down that path. What we're talking about is we're only letting people do the things that they think they're good at, the things that they want to do, the things that they're comfortable doing, the things that are easy for them, and never taking on tasks that might potentially, make them think and learn and grow just a little bit.
I just makes me think of back to business school, and there's probably about 40 students that were at the start of the program that were in the sessions with us, and a few that found their way out of the program. But we split up into teams. We had 4 initially, then 3 people, and throughout most of the 2.5-year program that were together, as we did our projects, almost weekly projects. There's always like individual projects and then group projects. We kind of naturally found areas where we were strong in and were really good at and could take ownership of. That's not what we're talking about. Like we were talking about user groups, and you've got your board over the user group, and everybody takes roles that they're comfortable with, that they're good at. They join and they work together. That's not even what we're talking about here. It's more of looking at the project of what needs to be done and putting off doing core tasks. If we're each focused on the things that we enjoy doing, inevitably there's going to be things that none of us enjoy doing on the project team and that get left undone. So I rather look at it as, look, there's 10 things that need to be done. Let's divvy up the things that our strengths that we enjoy doing, and then balance it out with an equal load of the things that we don't like doing but need to be done for the project, so that it's fair, it's even. That's a big part of what managers do, Sharon, is load balancing of those things.
Well, yeah. And one of the things that, I find is that when you're not taking care of doing those types of things, right? So we're all doing the things we want to do, and we're just all kind of ignoring and sweeping stuff under the rug that we don't want to. Like ultimately, the people who are really good at those things keep doing more and more and more of them. And the people who are willing to take on the stuff that they don't do tend to do more and more and more of it, because let's be really honest, the reward for a job well done is more work, right? And so those people just tend to keep getting the same types of tasks over and over, not because necessarily they're good at it or because that helps them or that's their zone of genius, but just really because they were a nice person and they were willing to do it that one time, and then the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time, and the next time.
And then you wonder why they're burned out. Somebody will then inevitably say, it's like, I thought you enjoyed doing that. It's like the work doesn't disappear. It just, as you say, it just shifts to whoever's willing to carry it.
Yeah. And what happens with those people, right? They get resentful, they get frustrated. And then you have this opportunity to have amazing people on your team that ultimately either give up or they leave because they don't ever get to do the cool stuff. And so if it's not being distributed properly, it can definitely feel extremely biased.
Yeah, I think that, optimizing for comfort can definitely quietly undermine performance and trust. And so that's where you might see they're doing it, they're working hard, they're doing a good job doing those tasks that nobody wanted to do. They went in and did it. Um, and then they burn out or they find another role and move on. And then you have nobody that wants to do those ugly tasks.
Right. Well, and then the problem is then nobody's been doing those tasks. So then you get this gigantic backlog of all of these things that should have been getting done, but they weren't getting done because everybody was only doing the things they wanted to do. And so ultimately, those fundamental things that keep places running kind of fall off the wayside. And then now all of a sudden everything's on fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where bottlenecks pop up. And so nobody wants to do the uncomfortable things. They take a lot longer to do because you're finding people that are fighting over not doing it. And so those tedious tasks get delayed. It then starts impacting the overall timelines for those projects. So it really is, you're suddenly find yourself dealing with what was a completely preventable crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so individuals are impacted by this. Like they're not growing their skills. They're not, you're not using their strengths, their passions, but you are, unfairly load balancing tasks across those teams. And so those individuals, there's anxiety, there's resentment, kind of all those different things. It then impacts how those employees that are negatively impacted by that see you as a leader, as a manager. So it can impact the credibility, especially if there is bias, if you are favoring individuals, which in my experience, Sharon, has been the case. That's been the problem, is that they favor these people, the golden child employees, and to everyone else's detriment. That's what I've seen most commonly.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that perception. And I think, again, sometimes it is favoritism and sometimes it's just easy, right? I
Yeah.
know this person did it last time. It on the surface, again, on the
Right.
surface, well, they're good at it. So I'm going to have them do it again because they were good at it. They did a good job last time. And this other person has never done it before, or I've never seen them do it before. So I don't know if they're good at it. It is easier oftentimes for a manager to go ahead and do that. But that can be perceived as favoritism, whether it is or not. And on top of that, you're not giving other people the opportunity to learn those things with or without those people. And so you have this kind of long-term, uneven growth and balance. You're not training people to be backups. You're not cross training. You're not growing, people in a different direction. So ultimately, as a leader, you're not doing your team any favors.
Yeah, and another part of it too is the one, it looks like you're protecting star performers, but you're sending the signal that that hard work or that invisible work, a lot of the operational functions, the things that must be done, but because it's not sexy and out in front and exciting and out in the front of the house kind of experience, that you're saying, hey, it's undervalued, or we don't care about this.
Mm-hmm.
And having run at multiple companies, like shared services teams, where we did a lot of the ugly grunt work of the back behind there. And it's, again, when I've been through in my 30 plus year career, 3 different recessions, and where do cuts come from? But usually from those unglorified, invisible work operations teams, that they don't understand what they just cut until after they cut it. I look at the last time there were layoffs in a recession and my team was impacted by that. What do? They hired back a couple of the people as contractors almost immediately because they realized, oh crap, we cut too deep.
Yeah, no, it happens. And I mean, culturally, I think when you're training different people, you then have more viability across your entire team because you can ultimately kind of understand who knows how to do what. But you're absolutely right. I think, ultimately that the work that people don't want to do definitely ends up becoming undervalued and not, I mean, not even not done, but not recognized and not valued at all by the team.
Yeah. I think a number of the pitfalls that happen, it's like as we kind of covered, you're avoiding these these tasks. They turn into crisis. The task that you procrastinate on today becomes tomorrow's fire drill. So avoidance compounds, always compounds. And what started as a minor discomfort turns into something that could become a measurable risk. It impacts morale. It weakens team cohesion. Everything feels lopsided about it. This is why project-centric organizations are so frequently reorg as well. And a lot of it is because there's these imbalances that the only way to go in there and fix it is a higher up leader, the executive team comes in and says, no, we're going to change things around. We're going to mix it up. We're going to change leadership at this level. We're going to reassign projects. All those kinds of things usually stem from that kind of imbalance.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I can tell you a ton of times in my career, especially when I was younger, where this was kind of a real thing, right? I would be on teams, and when we would distribute assignments, there would be essentially all the tickets that needed to happen, whether that was, depending on what kind of a team I was on, how the tasks got distributed. I would start getting tasks, and oftentimes I would look at them and be like, why am I writing documentation or, doing follow-up tasks or doing more administrative type work? I mean, I have a development background. I could be scripting things. I could be coding things. I could be creating data charts. And I remember there was a day I was on a software development team, and I, had somebody send out all the tasks, and I was like, why didn't I get any of these? And they're like, oh, I didn't know you even knew how to do that. I'm like, well, did you bother to read my resume or talk to me about what I'm capable of doing? Come to find out, I was literally the only person out of 30 people who knew how to do the thing that they were trying to accomplish. And they were going to have a different person skill up to learn how to do something that I already had a skill set for. But because there was an assumption that I didn't know how to do it because I hadn't done that particular type of task for the team before, they were just going to hand it off to somebody else. And so, I mean, we have a whole nother topic around visibility and making sure people know that, what you can do. But ultimately, if you just keep giving them the same types of tasks over and over and over, then how will you even know if they're capable of doing something else?
Right. Another one of those issues that be resolved if in a one-on-one, it wasn't a project status meeting, but an actual conversation with manager employee.
Crazy ideas.
It's interesting what happens when you talk to people. You find out about them. It's crazy.
Well, and I know this is going to shock you, but did you know that after people have been places for a while, that sometimes their skill sets change and they go out and learn things and they get certified and they get credentials. And I'm telling you now, if you don't capitalize on their new knowledge and new training, they will find some other company that probably will.
I remember when I was approved to go to do my MBA, and my director, senior director, GM, to remember her title, but just was like, okay, but you realize that there are no guarantees that you finish your degree, that you'll automatically get, higher pay or new roles or things out of it. And I said, I realize that there's nothing from your perspective. You don't owe me anything there, but I'm telling you, as I'm learning and growing and applying this, this isn't word for word what I said, but the gist of what I said. But I said, I'll be disappointed in myself if I don't see career progression out of it. And during my program, I was promoted twice. So as I was applying all of that. But again, that was, funny things happened when you allow people, give them stretch goals and allow them to rise above what they're doing today, is that people will often surprise you.
So maybe we should talk about ways that you could overcome this and actually do the right thing.
Yeah, I think as you go and you look at it again, if you're really looking and paying attention to this, I mean, I don't think that, I don't know, your experience, Sharon, these aren't the kinds of tasks that are hidden. Like, what tasks do people not want to do? No, they're usually pretty obvious.
Wait, somebody does that? No way.
So to go in and look at, like, what are the tasks that are consistently being delayed, and delayed by whom, and look at that, and then have a conversation. And I mean, how I would approach it as a team lead, for example, I would sit down with the team and say, look, here are the things that need to be done, and we want to do this equitably. And so who has the bandwidth? What could be taken on? We want to make sure these efforts, they don't get done until all of these things are done. So everybody needs to take this on. Who is capable of, has done it before, has experience, who's never done this before, that you want to have the first try at it. Maybe you'll like it. I don't know, but have that conversation. Because my experience is that when, for the most part, when you present it in that way, that people are willing to, like, okay, I'll take on these pieces, and it's a conversation, it's equitable, and they can choose to take on that hard task, and they're usually more willing to do it. Now, the other way is to, what's that phrase for it, where you volunteer on behalf of your employees?
You're voluntold.
You're voluntold. There you go. So in that, if you don't have any takers for all of the items, you can still voluntold them. But by doing it kind of in the open there with everybody, they're more like, okay, that's fine, I'll take it on. They can see, again, the balance. There's not the favoritism that's happening. You're not protecting the golden child in that scenario. But that's what I would say first, is identify those items and then be transparent about the process.
I think another thing, and this is, I think about things backwards. Everybody always tells me I think about things differently. One of the things that I think about from a leadership perspective is valuing the things that most people don't want to do at a higher value, because ultimately everybody wants the glory. Everybody wants the fame. Everybody wants to do the thing that's cool. And so if you traditionally have things that are higher value, and you know that there are things that less people are going to want to do, if you raise the value of those items, you will get people who will do more of them. So maybe the value of those items means that they get a larger estimate than they really need, which gives them some bandwidth to do other things. Maybe they, get some extra, something out of it, whether that's, a little bit of a perk or a bonus or something for doing it. Maybe they get, an attaboy, right? You say, hey, we're really appreciative of this person for stepping up and doing this thing. Figure out something that gives that thing value. I remember when I was a kid, I know nobody wants to eat their veggies, right? They eat their veggies last, because they're like, first we eat the starch or the potatoes or the rice, then we eat the meat, then I'm now full. And so there's not really enough space left to put in my veggies. Well, I remember, my parents and grandparents were both like, they loved vegetables. And they said, eat your vegetables first, because they're the best thing on your plate. They're healthy for you. They taste good. And they kind of taught me that vegetables actually had a higher value than anything else on my plate. To this day, I would rather eat a vegetable than anything else on my plate, because I associated that with being a more valuable food to eat first. And I think there's this behavioral idea in your team of identifying the tasks that most people are probably not going to want to do, that consistently get procrastinated, and raising the value level on them to where your team wants to do them.
Yeah. I think just even if you are equitable in the acknowledgments of all of the projects across the board.
Yes.
Put them on equal value, so that, the completion of these, these tasks are seen, like, same kudos, call it out in the meetings, like, all the same way. It's again, depending on what you do, but having like the project status board and complete now, and recognizing these people for this one, and we're going to move on to this next piece. And this was done faster than this, still reduced costs here. But I think that if you can highlight those things equally, that will help with that imbalance as well.
Yeah, perception matters for sure.
Oh, for sure. One thing, and talking about perception matters and children with vegetables, one strategy we employed was we did this with broccoli and Brussels sprouts.
My favorite vegetables.
I love, me too. But we made them, and when the kids were small, and we didn't give any to them, and my wife and I had them on the plates, and the kids were like, "Well, what about us?" I said, "Oh, these are adult foods. You won't like them at all." To this day, all 4 of my adult children, they love Brussels sprouts and broccoli. So
you raised the value.
Yes. That was it. They're like, no, you don't want these. These are adult things.
I think the next thing to think about too is understand what is easy for different people, right? And crazy idea. Know what your people can do.
Like in that 101, that one-on-one conversation that should happen on a regular basis. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, know what your people can do. Know what their strengths are. Know what their weaknesses are. Know where their growth areas are.
What their goals are. What do they want to do? I mean, somebody might want to go down the project management path. The other one is trying to finish their degree and want to be an engineer. And so you might mix it up based on that path.
Well, and oftentimes they don't even know, right? So there might be, maybe they need more skill set using Excel, right? But their current job or their current role doesn't have a lot of tasks that are heavy in Excel, but you know that you need somebody to do things like keep track of things in Excel. And you're like, you know what, this is a great opportunity. The work itself may not be really aligned with what you enjoy or where you're headed, but I know that you need more Excel skills. So let's bake that into your growth, your career opportunity plan so that you can do that and align that with a task that maybe needs to be done.
Yeah. One other thing, Sharon, I do think it needs to be addressed is the favoritism optics.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that might be something depending on if you recognize, hey, it appears this, or I'm actually doing it. It might not be something that you do at a group level, have the conversation, or if you're a senior leader and you see managers, if you've been, through HR, you've heard feedback that this director, this manager favors their star performers, and it's affecting morale and the culture of the team at a lower level, is to go and address it. Be honest and open about that. And explain by making the assignment of the task intentional, having it transparent, explaining the rationale of here's why we're making these assignments in this way. And you can even highlight there in front of the group and be like, hey, I'm giving this to David, who is, working on finishing his degree and moving over into an engineering role. So I'm going to give him these tasks that'll give him more experience there as he's preparing for this. People are more accepting of that, the understanding of that. Mm-hmm. And where hey, it's not biased, but there's actually rationale behind this. So I think that you need to address that right up front.
Well, and if you do that, think about this. If you do that, so you align things with growth areas for people, you do it intentionally, mm-hmm. You let the team know that that's what's happening. Most people are good people. They'll support each other, right? They'll see those as opportunities. They'll support each other in those growth areas. They'll celebrate each other because they'll be like, hey, look, I know that this may be something new for you or something that you're learning or an area that you're growing in. And we're here to cheer you on and support you and help you be better at it. And I think the more that people are transparent about that, the more they will support and help each other along the way.
Well, jumping into best practices, I know you're a fan of this. I am too, is having those tasks. So back to kind of the core issue here, having that in a place that's visible, a dashboard, the project list, whether it's on a whiteboard in the hallway or it's on, out on SharePoint, it's in Planner or in some other project management tool where everybody has that view of what is out there, what's being done, who owns them, What's the ETA and delivery of each of those? Who are the stakeholders? All those core data there. And use that, go back to that, point to, here's what's going on. The new project that's coming up, I'm not just giving it to this other person because they're, I realize you're next on the list, but look at your project load. I have to take that in consideration. Here's my rationale for assigning to this other person.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and if you're keeping track of all of that information, people are more aware of how you're rotating it, who you're doing, how you're assigning things. I do, like I mentioned before, I think there should be some sort of, reward or attaboy for, doing things that not everybody wants to do. I also think that, when you're doing your retrospectives or your postmortems, your lessons learned, whatever you want to call it, if you try to identify these are the things that we tend to struggle with getting done in a timely fashion, you can then use those things to turn around and say, hey, these are the areas in our team that we need to work on prioritizing better next time. And then that way, you know what you need to be working on.
If you are developing leaders, I mean, one of the best things you can do is normalize the discomfort as part of their growth, as part of that plan. And so that's sometimes the case where you have people that are obviously in the queue to become, the next managers in the organization, they're natural leaders and they're moving that path. Is in your conversations like, hey, I see that in the next year, I could see you promoted up to manager. But I need to see that you need to show that you're able to do these ugly, unwanted tasks as equally as the things that you excel at. Yeah. It's not, you don't need to, knock it out of the park each time with these projects, but you need to show that you're willing to do the work as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah. I think that's just a key point here is that high performers, you can't shield them from discomfort. They should be stretched by it. So
not only can't, you shouldn't.
Right. Yep. And I think that's fantastic. As kind of a call to action to wrap this up. I love this idea of going in and you could have some fun with this. This is the gamification of ugly tasks, Sharon. Like you could even say that, all right, hey, we're going to put a dollar value or special reward or special kudos or lunch with the boss or something or other for the person who takes this. If there's multiple items, you could do something fun with it. You could say, I'm a special award recognition for one of these tasks, but you won't know until they're all done which one it is. So it's almost the 3-card monty there.
Under one of these chairs is a special prize.
Let me check that. You've won a messy task. You've won. Oprah's giving them out at the next team meeting. No, but I think that if you call out that, hey, special reward or recognition, thank you so much to whoever takes this on. Would someone be willing to do that before you voluntold somebody to do it? And then one other thing that you might consider is you might stack some of those, or it's referred to as a tranche some of those ugly tasks together and create a growth rotation. So you could actually say, hey, this is somebody, if somebody's willing to, and for these operational roles, so just say that, hey, this is this month, next month, somebody else will take the ownership of it. It's almost like, it's like the person who has to be on call. Everybody's willing to do it if it's not them all the time, every time. But if it's in rotation, you're taking on those tasks. People say, hey, it's my rotation to take these on. They'll get through it. They see that there's only a month. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then they're done until the next time it's their turn.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, my last tip would be, personally try to find something that you've been avoiding or postponing. And I have a very big thing on my wall that I've had for a very long time that says, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And ultimately, the only way to is through. right? So oftentimes the thing that's holding us back, the thing we're postponing, the thing we're not working on is the thing that's going to make us successful. It's the thing that's going to help us grow. It's the thing that's going to take us to the next level. So oftentimes if you feel that way, you should personally be going ahead and tackling that thing that's holding you back.
I was going to break into some song lyrics about with the quotes from Dune. "Fear is the mind killer" by the song Spice. You know, by the band Eon. If you don't know, if this is like throwback to the late '80s. But I won't go there though, so I won't do that.
Okay.
No, but thank you all for watching the episode. Again, please follow us out on YouTube. You can find us at Project Failure Files. And we've got our Substack as well under Project Failure Files. So please like, subscribe, follow, all the good things there. Reach out to us and connect with us. And I guess I'll always throw that in too is don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out to us through LinkedIn as well. Just leave a note and say, hey, saw your show, big fan, sending all my love, whatever you want to say attached to that. And we'd be happy to connect as well. Always happy to.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.